All right, we're going to get started. Thank you guys so much for joining us this morning. Really appreciate you sharing your time with us today. Through our bi-weekly calls and strategic planning meetings, and even our happy hours, we have heard all of you loud and clear. We need to address mental health of faculty and staff, but mental health for all of you. Your multiple hats have multiplied in the past few years, on top of your deep concern for the well-being of your faculty and staff, your school, and cultivating its culture. In this webinar today, which we hope will be the first of many, we are focusing on how to identify your strengths and strengths in others, how you can leverage that information to create your best self and lift others up, how to develop a positive mindset and cultivate that in others. This is being recorded, and we will share the recording in a day or two. Also, we'll be looking at questions at the end, but we hope that this will be interactive, so we'll be asking some questions of you throughout the presentation as well. I'd like to introduce you to someone who really needs no introduction. She has been deeply invested in the HR lives of independent schools for over a decade. From tackling compliance with Stacy, working in the trenches with many of you to solve problems on various HR issues, to transitioning to being the leader of her whole life. She's here today using what she has learned and found effective in her journey, combining that with her intimate knowledge of your HR struggles as it relates to mental health and cultivating a positive culture in your school to bring you this presentation. Please help me welcome Hope DeRocha.
Thank you, Kelly. Good morning, everyone. It feels amazing to be here this morning with all of you. I think the last time we probably worked together was March 2020. It would have been right at the beginning of the COVID lockdown, and we started sending everybody home to start working. It was business as usual, but was anything but business as usual, right? While I know we don't want to go back there, I do want to share a gift that I saw from COVID. And the gift is, I'm here with you today, reunited with so many old friends. And I'm united with Matt and Kelly and their team here at Corporate Synergies. So I'm really grateful for that. But I come here this morning positively transformed. There won't be any mention of ERISA, employment regulations, or any type of compliance today. So if that's why you showed up, I'm sorry to disappoint you. The good news is Corporate Synergies has a team for that if you need it. So this webinar is all about you today. It's about your personal well-being. It's about how you can adopt personal rituals that will lead to a more positive mindset for you, and then in turn impact your performance and outlook at work. My positive transformation actually started pre-COVID. I was living a good life, but I felt like there was something missing. I wanted something more. I don't know if it was work-life balance or maybe it was just purpose. I had an opportunity to take a continuing ed program. It was a whole life leader program. This was a big deal for me. It was the first time I took out my checkbook and I invested a significant amount in my own personal development. I took this program along with other executive women, and the first thing we did in the program was take a VIA strengths assessment, which is values in action assessment. That assessment, the results were eye-opening for me. It revealed that I had 5 top strengths, which are called your signature strengths. It's who you are at the core, connects directly to your values. It's your inner assets. For me, that was kindness, humor, leadership, creativity, and love of learning. And I had my answer. That's what was missing. I wasn't getting enough of those things, and I needed to embrace them so I could be my best self every day. I also realized that perhaps these strengths that I was now so happy to have were being looked at as weaknesses in my current role. And that's what we do at work, right? Or even in life, we focus on weaknesses. We always focus on what needs to be fixed, what we're not good at. We don't pay enough attention to what we're good at. So I did share some of these strengths practices with my team at the time, and I could feel the shift in myself. It was making an impact, but it just wasn't enough. So my COVID gift, besides being here with all of you, was having a new role. And my new role was being the leader of my whole life. That was my job, to live to my fullest potential. So I dove deeper into positive psychology, which is the science of human flourishing and focusing on what's strong, not what's wrong. I adopted new practices to improve my mental fitness. They became my rituals for whole life well-being. And you're probably wondering, how is this, me sharing this with you today, going to impact the culture at your school? Well, at first, it'll be indirectly, but I promise you, by practicing them, you can help shift happen. You can start creating a culture that seeks out the good. So this morning, we're going to focus on encouraging your own self-care with rituals, promoting happiness, confidence, and connection. And the more time you spend in a positive mindset, the more positive energy you generate, the more you're going to attract, and the more you'll have to share with others, whether it's at home or at work. And at the same time, you're building resiliency, so you can respond to negativity with more positivity. It's like being on the airplane when they tell you, in case of an emergency, put your oxygen mask on first. It's the same type of thing. So together, we're going to start a ripple effect of positive energy. It's like the pebble that you throw in the pond, and those rings just keep growing. So what are the differences between habits, rituals, and routines? One more, Cal. Thank you. Nope, one more. So what are the difference between these habits, routines, and rituals? Well, the big difference is the amount of energy and consciousness that they take. Habits take the least of both of those. Those are the automatic things that we do, and sometimes we don't even realize we're doing them, right? And then it's like brushing your teeth in the morning or at night. It's like putting on your deodorant for the day. That's a habit. A routine takes a little more energy, a little more consciousness, and they evolve over time when we stack our habits. They become our routine. It's like what I did this morning when I woke up. My alarm went off. I hit it off. I jumped out of bed. You go in, you shower, you do your hair, you brush your teeth. Hopefully you put that deodorant on, grab your coffee, and you run out the door. Do you really remember everything you did between the time you jumped out of bed to us sitting here today? Probably not. That's a routine. Rituals, they require the most energy and the most consciousness. That's what we're focusing on today. They've existed for centuries in religion, in the military, creating structure, creating purpose. Even athletes rely on rituals so they can perform at their best. And Kelly, I know you have some thoughts on habits that you might like to share.
Well, I just wanted to share another resource. You'll be talking about Erica Cashwin and what you've learned from her, but I also read a book, Atomic Habits by James Cleary, and I just loved reading that. I already am a very structured, scheduled person, but there are some things that I would like to fit in and turn into rituals. So that was another great book that helped me intertwine into my existing habits and routines to make some new rituals possible.
And it worked because you're one of the most efficient people I know, taking care of family and work.
Always room for improvement, Hope, for sure.
So let's talk about what a ritual is. So Erica Cashwin is the author of the Rituals Roadmap. One more for me, Kelly. Erica Cashwin's the author of the Rituals Roadmap, and she explains that you can take ordinary actions and ordinary habits and transform them into rituals. They have to have three things. They have to provide psychological safety and purpose and result in better performance, the 3 Ps of rituals. And I did this. I adopted well-being habits. I stacked them all together to create my daily routine. And then they gained more meaning and purpose for me, and they helped fulfill my vision. I named this routine that I had as my dailies, things I did every day: journaling, strength spotting, gratitude practice, and mindful pauses. They became the rituals of my whole life. It's like Starbucks, where they don't have a meeting unless everyone at the table has a cup of coffee. On the first day of work, every employee gets to have a cup of coffee with leadership, and it's their favorite flavor. It's like spaghetti and meatballs at the firehouse. Keshwin learned that firefighters who plan, prepare, and connect during their spaghetti and meatball dinner are the highest performers and most engaged in their work. She also shares a story of her neighbors on the east side of New York. During COVID, every night at 7 o'clock, they would hang out their windows and they would cheer for the healthcare workers as they transitioned on their shift. A ritual and a gift from COVID, right? Just another one. In the book, The Power of Rituals, their formula for a ritual is intention, attention, and repetition. Like if you have a gratitude practice where you journal, which has many benefits, and we'll talk about a little bit more, or maybe it's yoga and meditation, or practicing the 6 pillars of well-being. These elements or formulas, the 3 Ps and I plus A plus R, they help us decipher rituals from routines and habits. And Kelly, Matt, and I realized earlier this week when we were chatting about Matt's typical day that he might have the makings of a ritual.
I think I may, I may, and until we started really engaging in this topic, I'd go by habits and routines, and anyone who's worked with me or knows me personally for a long time, I'm a very routine driven person. My alarm goes off every day at 4:30, have breakfast, go to the gym, get home, wake my girls up, get them ready for school, take them to school, go to the office, get my cup of coffee, like everybody else, is part of my routine every day. But I think the one thing for us that I was taught very, very early on by my boss and our CEO, Mike Lisa, as a ritual, it was called the head to pillow rule. And for that, the head to pillow rule is whether you have an answer or whether you can provide the solution at that moment in time, is you get back to every email in your inbox by the end of the day before your head hits the pillow at night. And that has kind of always been my ritual. And I've been now with Corporate Synergy almost 17 years. And that's pretty much been a ritual of mine and many of us who've been around at Corporate Synergies for a very long time, working under Mike, to have that ritual, head to pillow rule, respond to every email, and then, follow up with whatever you need to do with it on the next day. And I think that's proved many of us very, very well over the years.
I would agree. So it really doesn't matter what we want to call this, if we call it a ritual or a routine. We know it has the elements of a true ritual, and they've been around for a really long time, and we know that they work. It's like in our schools, if we look around, there are rituals that exist for building connection, for building confidence and spirituality, ceremonial progressions as well. And then, Kel, on the next slide, just so that we can see what's going on in the schools, I think every school still has an alma mater. I'm not sure. And if we had time, I'd sing mine, but we don't. So we'll save that for another time. But we know that they exist, right? And maybe they're still in existence. Maybe we forgot some, we tucked them away. But there's some really important rituals at the schools. And if we took them away and didn't bring them back, people would miss them. So it's already part of our culture. So my dailies, the ritual that I created, it energizes me in a positive way. And I can see the ripple effect, and I can feel the impact that it's having with the people around me at home and at work. And I believe in this process, and that's why I use it in my coaching. So I want to share with you 3 of the practices that I still use regularly: the mindful pause, strength spotting, and 3 good things. And then we're going to take a few minutes to look to see if there's opportunities for you to create rituals at work or in your personal life. So the first is the mindful pause. And this is something that I would typically start a webinar with, but today's format it didn't fit. So I'm going to try to slide it in here. So bear with me for a moment. And if you'd like to turn your camera off, if it's on, you can go ahead and do that. But we're going to take a mindful pause, and I'm going to walk you through the process. So I'd like for you to sit up straight in your chairs, close your eyes, just breathe through your nose. Hopefully you can start feeling yourself relaxing. You can start with your eyebrows and relax them and your neck. Relax those shoulders all the way down to your hips and your legs, right into your toes. And just feel that relaxation. Continue to breathe through your nose. And we're going to ask ourselves a question. How do I need to show up for the remainder of this webinar so that I can be my best self? So that I can get the most out of this time that I'm giving myself today for personal development. You might need to be patient. You might need to let go of some things that are lingering that you're worried about. Let's leave them behind. Maybe you need some self-love to allow yourself this time, this self-care. Maybe you need to be open, have a growth mindset. Take a couple of more breaths. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. And I'm curious how that made you feel, if you were able to relax and just take a few breaths. And I know Kelly will be monitoring the chat, so if you wanted to throw some things in there, please feel free. Now, this practice, when you do it yourself and you use it over time, it can take 10, 15 seconds, right? But the effect is going to last for hours. You can rely on taking a mental pause anytime during the day. Slide it in there when you're transitioning from home to work, or you're leaving work and you need to get home and take care of the family. Take a pause. When you need to be at your best during the day, or if you need to prepare for some challenging conversation with a family member or with a coworker. This is a terrific practice with many benefits that you can work into your day. You can use it anywhere, anytime. Customize it and make it your own. For Matt, his pause is an hour of exercise in the morning. He didn't even realize that was his mindful pause until we started talking earlier this week. And that hour in the morning carries him through the day. So there's definitely some impacts. And I wonder, does anybody see an opportunity in their day where they might be able to take a pause? And do we have any brave souls that want to turn on their mic and share it with us or throw it in the comments? Kelly, are you seeing any activity?
Nope, nothing right now.
We're shy this morning.
So
We're all
Hope,
relaxing.
so I think everyone's still, to Kelly's point, I think everyone's still relaxing. I think it's probably the first time that anyone has had the opportunity to think about it for a second. You know, as we were preparing for this webinar the other day, and you know, I think we all involuntarily at many points during our day take one of those exhaustive deep breaths to kind of recenter ourselves for a second. But that's an involuntary action that we're all doing. To be able to do this mindful pause, you need to be mindful. And without that, the involuntary deep breath doesn't have that lasting effect. It's more of a short term, okay, let me move on. Yeah. What I see and what may be really helpful for a lot of folks is I think what the pandemic has brought is certainly a different way of doing business. And we certainly know that the stresses and the demands on the business offices have changed dramatically from the beginning of COVID to where it is today. And speaking to many of you, knowing the greater challenges the business office has. But if, you know, Hope, your calendar, I guarantee, I know Kelly's calendar and my calendar, we're literally booked mostly every day from sun up to sundown. And I think the hard part about Zoom is that if anyone sees a window of opportunity to plop in a Zoom meeting on your calendar, they do. And it may just be a 5-minute conversation or it may be the full time period. But going from Zoom to Zoom to Zoom without having a chance to take a second and reset and do a mindful pause. I mean, for the business office folks, 1 minute they can be talking about an employee issue. What the next call can be about a student situation. The next one could be a meeting with the head of school or whatnot. and you're having to transition very quickly going from one topic to another. And that's just a challenge for anybody in any environment. And in particular, in the challenges within the business offices, because so many different hats our business officers wear. I mean, they're HR, they're finance, they're mental health, they're everything. And I think it's a great opportunity before you just jump on that next Zoom call to just take that 20 seconds to just kind of decompress and just get into the moment for that next call. And I know since we started preparing for this, I started doing it myself. And again, I'm probably not the guy that everyone's going to think of straight away as the guy that's going to do it. So which is why I want to speak up and say, I'm a guy that is now trying to do this and become habitual with it and routine with it. And it's definitely helped me over the last couple of days, I will say. So I think this is a very good practice that everyone can learn from.
I feel like my work here is done. So much.
Is that a mic drop? Oh, mic drop time?
Yeah.
No, we
That's
still have 2 more to go through.
Yeah. It's the intention. When you intentionally take this pause, that's where you really see the benefits. And it's the benefit for your own mental health. But think about how it impacts the people around you when you're calmer and you're more mindful and you can be present in conversations. That's where we can see some real gifts. So another of my favorite exercises that I like to use is strength spotting. And there's always opportunities to spot strengths in people. So this exercise helps you not only discover what's best in yourself, but also in others. And it builds confidence, it builds awareness, creates purpose, and makes people feel authentic. I mentioned the VIA character strengths assessment to you earlier, and there is a free version of it that you can take, and I share that link at the end. But for me, this was really eye-opening, and it changed the direction of my life. So today, I would love for you to run through this with me. I know you haven't taken the VIA assessment yet, but I provided to the left in the graphic the 24 strengths that VIA measures in their assessment, right? We all have the same 24 character strengths. They just show up in a unique order. The ones that show up at the top, maybe your top 5 or 6, are your signature strengths, right? Those are your inner assets that you have. Those are the things that when you're doing them, you're in flow and you're flourishing. The rest, they're not weaknesses. They're just lesser strengths. We have them, but they're not automatic for us. But when we need them, they're there. So we're going to use VIA's process, which is called C, spot, explain, and appreciate, in order to see what opportunities there are to share this with others. It's always easier to share strengths with somebody else. We have strengths blindness. We don't always see our own strengths. So spot means recognize in someone else or in a moment something that's good, something that's strong. And then you explain it, like what was going on at that time that made you recognize it, what was happening. And then you appreciate it. How did it impact you or make you feel? You know, we can always just say to the person, thanks, great job. And that could be enough. But when we add the intention and we go through this type of a process, we're creating better connections and we're impacting the culture around us and the people around us, right? So I'd love for you to go through this with me. And we're going to go through the process and think about somebody at work who has a strength or really great quality that you recognize. And it may fit into the 24 off to the left. So feel free to use that. It will really help you through the process. But I've been away from all of you for about 2.5 years. And while I'm connected with Stacy Lybrand still, not as connected as we used to be. So I'm taking this opportunity to call her out, and I'm glad she's here. So I'm going to use her as my example of strength spotting. So the strengths I spot in Stacy when we worked together were perspective, judgment, and perseverance. So think about the person you have in mind. And what strengths to the left might you see in them? Kindness, love, zest, love of learning. And just write that down and keep it in mind. And to explain that, Stacy used her perspective when listening to clients' questions or scenarios. She always relied on good judgment when answering those questions and putting together guidance to share to help them get their job done right. Her perseverance always resolved our HR 911 calls quickly and timely. I appreciated that as a leader because she always had the client's best interests in mind, and she always provided the best level of service. And I know our clients also appreciated that in her. So think about that person that you had in mind and see if you can go through that process. Kelly, did you do any strength spotting that you might want to share, or should I move on?
No, I did some strength spotting. After we talked, I was thinking about, I mean, gosh, I mean, I can think about my team for sure with so many strengths, but since Matt is on the call, I'm going to spotlight him and make him uncomfortable. Strength spotting on him. And I just really admire his leadership and how he takes an ownership of cultivating new hires and, passing on his knowledge of rituals and what works and what hasn't, but also leadership for me and all of our team as we work together to support our clients and grow. He's just been such an amazing partner. So I'm so grateful for his leadership as just one strength I'll go into.
We only have time for one.
Yeah, I could list more. I'm not saying he only has one, but we have some other things to cover. So
yeah. So that's great, Kelly. Thank you for being brave. And thank you to Matt for being a trooper here today.
Thank you.
So the conversation with Stacy might have gone a little bit differently than that, right? We're not going to sit down and say, Stacy, I spotted this. This is how I explain it. This is how I appreciate it. So the conversation sounds a little bit more like this. Stacy, great job today with that client. You really used your perspective and judgment to understand their situation. The resources you sent them were exactly what they needed, and you did it so quickly. You always exceed our expectations. Thank you so much. Not that hard once you practice it and you get used to it, right? I don't know if anybody else is brave enough to throw something in the post about a strength they spotted. I'd love to hear it. If not, you can just fill the chat with all those positive strength words. Seeing those always make me feel better. And I know it's always easy to spot strengths in the people that we like or our star employees, right? But the real challenge comes when we try to spot a strength in somebody who doesn't fit that bill, right? So maybe you have somebody on your team that just pushes your buttons no matter what, right? Somebody that's always just getting in your way. That's where we can make the real impact, is finding a strength in them. So I just imagining some of your day, maybe you have a teacher that comes to the business office all the time. Maybe they're looking for something. They're always in a rush. They always have this deadline, right? Just coming in and just knocking on your door. Is it done yet? Is it done yet? Is it done yet? Well, if you think about it and put it in perspective, that person may be high in perseverance. Deadlines are really a priority for them. And we kind of look at that person a little bit differently. Okay, they're not quite as annoying when I realize that they have this strength, right? It's perseverance. Look at it as a good thing. The other thing is, you might have a coworker that every time you talk to them, they just ask you more questions. They never have enough information, right? They always need additional clarification. Well, that person may be guilty of being high in curiosity or a love of learning, right? They just want to know all the facts. They just can't help it. So do you see how we take these normal everyday situations and we flip them and we look at them through a different lens? It's a different, it's different. It just feels different, right? We're focusing on what's strong, and we're building a positive culture all around us, right? But we need to be careful with our strengths. There is a balance, right? If we overuse our strengths, they might not have a positive impact. They might look like something that's negative, right? If you overuse curiosity, it could be appearing as if you're nosy. You're just asking a lot of questions, right? So we don't want to offend people in that way. Somebody who overuses kindness may appear as if they're just a pushover and get taken advantage of. So we have to make sure that we maintain some type of a balance. They call it optimal, the optimal level of strengths. And it's not hard to notice when you're underusing or overusing a strength or somebody else's, but it's something to be conscious of. So I see the value in sharing strengths with others. It doesn't necessarily need to be this formal, right? But that little conversation that I shared with you, you could do that with a teammate or with somebody that you supervise, you know, or even try it with your boss informally. Give them a compliment. Notice the strength. It changes your conversation. Kelly, did anybody add anything in there about strengths? Anything we need to be aware of?
Well, Gabby was citing that hers is gratitude, and it allows her to be open to new opportunities. And Leah liked your point about how, you know, even those difficult faculty and staff, you know, if you're looking at it from a different perspective of strength spotting, it'll show empathy to those individuals.
Yeah, exactly. Spot on. And I see the gratitude in Gabby, definitely. And Leah's point, and you know, just to give everybody some credit, you're so overwhelmed with what's going on around you. You may not always have the time to just stop and change that perspective. And I understand that. But the more that we can practice it, the more that it happens, right? And you just see it. And Kelly, we might mention also that I believe your number one strength is gratitude as well.
It is that one.
Yeah,
When I took the VIA assessment, my number one was gratitude.
So I can see that in you. There's another place where I really think in your day that you could use this strength spotting, and it really helped me out as a leader with the team that I worked with, is how many people either complete a self-evaluation at some point during the year for themselves or create evaluations for others that work with them throughout the year, right? Well, I found when it came time to complete that self-evaluation for myself, I went right to my strengths list. It gave me the vocabulary that I needed and the wording that I needed to talk about my strengths, because we're not comfortable doing that, right? So that assessment helped me with that. It also helped me when I needed to evaluate other people, and I could call out their strengths there and then give examples of how they use them, right? It became a much more intentional conversation when you spoke with people about their review, when we were using this same vocabulary. The best time to use this, and it was a relief for me, was when I had to talk to people about overusing their strengths, and they might not be appearing as a strength any longer. So using that term, overusing a strength, rather than stating a weakness. So for example, instead of saying, you know, you always offend everybody in our meetings with what you have to say. It's like your conversations are inappropriate. Instead of saying that, you can say, you know, I know you're high in humor, but you're overusing that a bit in our team meetings, and people may be finding it offensive. So let's see if we can get back to that optimal use of humor. So that may not be the exact scenario you have, but it certainly is a better way of coming at the conversation than just talking about what they do wrong. So I hope that helps somebody, because I really found it to be helpful for those difficult conversations. Again, it takes practice, but I promise you the shift in your mindset happens. And it helps us manage negativity with more positivity. And that's the culture we're looking for. And the end result is the same as if we just, it's the end result is better. And the reason it's better is because for every one negative comment or negative conversation that we have with somebody, when we talk to them about something that's wrong, for every one of those, we need to have 5 positive ones. It's a 5-to-1 ratio. I don't know about you, but if somebody tells me something I did wrong, that sticks with me so much longer than if somebody gave me a compliment. So I know it feels a little bit awkward at first, especially doing this at work, but really I highly recommend that you just maybe start by writing down what you're spotting until you're comfortable with that, and then start sharing it and share it with your coworkers in the business office. Build some strengths champions within the business office and start a ripple effect and see if you can get it to continue. Right? And when you do start, you have to remember, when you spot strengths for people who aren't used to being told that they have strengths, it might feel a little bit awkward for them. So you have to have a little bit of patience, right? And explain to them that you're giving them a compliment, and just, reassure them of what it is that you're doing, right? People might get, they might even feel a little suspicious, like, why are you being so nice to me, right? But we're cultivating a culture of positivity. Mm-hmm. So that's strength spotting. I love it. Our next example is 3 good things. This is also from VIA, and it's a gratitude practice. Really simple, 3-step, really 2-step kind of gratitude practice. Positive psychology studies show that gratitude is a strength that's most connected to your happiness. Most connected to your happiness. CDC reports that gratitude may be the best kept secret to help reduce stress and make us feel better. It has significant benefits for our physical and emotional well-being. Gratitude practices, being high in gratitude, also helps us sleep better, and we all need more of that. We could spend our whole time today just talking about the benefits of gratitude, but unfortunately we can't. So maybe Matt will take a note and it'll be an idea for a future webinar. But I wonder if there's anybody on our call today that actually has a gratitude practice or regularly practices gratitude. And Kelly, you don't need to have a gratitude practice because you're high in gratitude already, but doesn't hurt.
Yes, well, I try to instill it in the family though, because I think it does in the crazy life, especially in the past few years. You have to talk about gratitude with the kids, and make sure and help them focus on it. So as they get older, they're comfortable with it. So I think it's super important at home as well.
Love that perspective.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great point. Great point to instill it in your kids, especially when you're high in the, your 5 or 6 top strengths. Those are the ones you should be sharing with others, right? People who need it. And when you do a strengths assessment on a team, you can look at everybody's individual strengths and figure out how you can work better together as a team. So it's really valuable in that way, compensating for others.
Yeah.
So
and Karen put in the chat that they do highs, lows, and looking forward to dinner. So rose, what's your rose for the day? What's your thorns? And what's your bid? What you're looking forward to, your bud. That's really neat, Karen. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
And Kelly Gruen says she has a gratitude alarm that goes off every night at 8 p.m. to remind her to stop and take a moment to recognize something I'm grateful for. You wouldn't think you'd need a reminder, but you do,
Yeah. A lot of things coming through. I love this. I'm going to read all the comments at the end. So let's just, to do this gratitude practice, it's just really easy. You just pick a moment in time, and you just reflect on that, whether it's today or yesterday or the last week, and just think about something good that happened to you, and you write these things down. And then if you can attach a strength to them using the VIA strengths, that's great too. But, I'll just share an exercise that I have like from this morning. I'm really grateful to my friend Beth because she allowed me to use her space today so I could broadcast this webinar with all of you. And the strengths I see in Beth is kindness and generosity. And Beth is always exemplifies these strengths. But what I would say to you is just jot down 3 things that happened to you that you're grateful for. 3 good things during the day. Journal it, keep it, look back on it, and really will cultivate gratitude. I know during COVID, I intentionally practiced gratitude. It wasn't one of my highest strengths, but I started a gratitude practice and journaling it. And when I retook the assessment not too long ago, my gratitude level number went up very much. It wasn't a top strength, but I was able to raise it. So you can definitely cultivate these strengths, and gratitude is a great one to cultivate. All right. And Kelly, I was just going to move on because I think literally gratitude could take up another hour, and we unfortunately don't have time for that. But what I would like to do is just throw a few ideas out there for all of you. There are opportunities to create rituals at work, and might be a great place to start. And we share a few places that rituals may work for you on the next slide. And maybe you already have some rituals, but this is a great way just to reflect to what's happening around you at school and see if there's an opportunity for you to create a ritual. Maybe it's around your onboarding process. With the way things are going today with the attraction of employees, you may want to create some type of recruiting or onboarding ritual to make that experience better for them. I always love rituals around meetings. You can start your meetings with strength spotting. You can start your meeting with 3 good things. Like I said, just tweak them a little bit to make them your own. And I did that with the team when I was at Austin. We started our meetings by just sharing something good that happened, in the prior week or the prior day, or spot a strength of a teammate. And I have to tell you, it really made people feel great. And the more we did it, the easier it got. And we started seeing more good in every day. So I encourage you to do that. Matt, was there something that you wanted to share about rituals at work, maybe for training, or is that part of just the onboarding?
No, I think it's important to take a look at almost every one of these components to create a ritual around it. I think for everybody in this environment, onboarding and recruiting is important. We want to keep our great talent. We want to be able to attract great talent. And it's the same in the business office with faculty and with staff. And I do believe it's really important to create positive rituals around that and get excited about it when you have a great win in those categories, either someone who's staying on board that you really wanted to keep on board, or someone that you were able to attract over to your organization. I think they should be celebrated. I think we do a really good job internally of celebrating when someone new comes on board through the onboarding process, whether it be having meetings set up. And I think you may be on the call today with us today, Robert Flicker, who's our regional head of client solutions in the Northeast for corporate synergies. And he created a process or rituals around when someone new was coming on board, so that they automatically felt that they were part of, we like to call it a family. We're not a huge organization. So creating that welcoming environment for anybody new coming in, I think has created a positive feeling for our newer folks that come on board. So I do think it's incredibly important from the moment someone says yes to make them feel welcome through a ritual.
I think that's a great point, Matt, and we might want to write this down too. Another opportunity for our HR friends is how to attract and retain employees. It's always a good topic too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So there's some empty spaces here just in case you wanted to add some of your own. I just wanted you to know that the list is really limitless. And referring to the 3 Ps from Erica Keshwin is really helpful when doing this at work. And then for personal rituals, so many opportunities for us to create rituals there. And I think I would take what Matt said about celebrating wins. I would add that in the personal rituals. I don't think, especially as women, that we celebrate enough of our victories, and we have a lot of them throughout the day. So if you could do that, I think that it would have a really positive impact on you and those around you. Bedtime rituals, so many of us have had those for a long time, even with our children. But make time for yourself. Again, so many opportunities for you to create those rituals. And I'm kind of moving ahead a little bit faster, Kelly, because I'm watching the clock, and I'm hoping that we can review some of the comments and things before our time is up, if that's okay with everybody. Again, we went through a couple of the rituals that I've been using for the past few years that I think you can easily apply to your personal life or even at work, right? To build that positive culture. But if you wanted to create your own from scratch, you could go ahead and use those formulas I shared from, earlier on, or use this little process here about stating what your intention is, giving it a trigger because you need to know when it's going to happen or it's never going to get done, what your action will be. Link it to something you're already doing. Your success rate will be so much higher. And I believe they talk about that a lot in Atomic Habits, Kelly's favorite book. And then what's your reward going to be at the end? So it's definitely a process that you can use to help you create rituals of your own. Create your own. Just make them up, tweak them, make them your own.
It's going to be a lot of trial and error,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. There's no right or wrong, right? If it makes you feel better and it's intentional, you're performing at your best, you can see the positive impact, not only on yourself, but those around you. And that ripple effect is the ripple still growing, then it's working, right? Claim it. It's working. So I always find the ends of meetings and webinars and things to be a little bit awkward. I feel like we start coming close to the end of our time. People are either so involved in the content or they're bored by the content and they're watching the clock, right? And they start packing up and they're ready to leave and go to another meeting or hop on another Zoom. And I feel like there's no way to close the end of it and talk about, does anybody else have any other questions? Make sure everybody has the information they need before they sign off, and clarify responsibilities and deadlines and who's taking action on what items. And I find that if you can, as the leader of a meeting, come up with a closing ritual to do that, it just creates that structure and clarity, an opportunity for conversation to make sure that when people are walking away from a meeting or even from a CE webinar, because I do this, it's like, what are my next action steps? What do I have to do, right? And when do I have to have them done by? And the big thing is, and there's a lot of conversation around this lately, is accountability. How do you hold yourself accountable for getting these things done? You have this looming deadline ahead of you, and how are you going to meet it, right? And I think that, again, I'm making this up, but I think that if we assigned or volunteered to be accountability partners for each other, we could keep each other on track. And we could hold each other accountable and be a resource, and maybe even someone to go to vent to or get additional guidance, collaborate with, and we could hold each other accountable. And it's not about this looming deadline that's 2 weeks out. It's more about creating meaningful conversations and connection. Again, that's what we want in our culture, right? Meaningful conversations, connection. So you could go ahead and use that, the slide before, and create a closing ritual, something that's comfortable for you. And with that, I ask you to maybe think about, is there 1 or 2 things from this webinar this morning that you either want to try to incorporate into your schedule, or you want to look into, and write those things down and find out how you're going to, and just put down your, in your little note as you're doing this, like, where are you going to find the time to do that? At lunchtime, maybe right after work, but you have to assign a time to it or you won't do it, right? And how can you be held accountable? I saw somebody in the chat put something about gratitude is an alarm on her phone. So maybe you could do that. Or you know what, hook up with a friend, share some of this with them and see if they can be your accountability partner. So with that being said, I think we have some time for questions. I just wanted to share with everybody. My contact information is here. I really, really appreciate it if you followed me on social media. You can use the QR code to the right to take that free assessment. You can do it on your phone. I will warn you, I'll know that you took it, so I may reach out to you. And I hope that's okay, but I'd love to talk to you about your strengths. Or you can use the link below. And then the resources that we referred to during today's webinar are down below. And then just before I sign off here, I just wanted to say I am especially grateful today to Kelly for reconnecting with me, for Matt, who was willing to let me throw myself out there in front of all of you with his name attached to it. And also to the Corporate Synergies team for all of their help in getting this webinar off the ground. I appreciate that. It's really been a lot of fun. I wish I could stay with you for another hour, but I'm going to turn it back over to Kelly.
Thanks, Hope. That was awesome. And hopefully everybody leaves here today with some guidance and maybe some new thoughts on the positive mindset. But just in closing, just what's next in 2023, it's fast approaching and we'll be there soon. We're hoping to continue these webinars, dive further in on some of these practices and how you can implement them at your school. Also talking about weaving in some compliance conversations around wellness topics and HR perspectives as well. So look out for those invitations in 2023. We're also looking at expanding our HR services, our outsourcing services for our clients. So that's coming up as well. We're also vetting a lot of new vendors that are coming up in the mental health space, offering more robust mental health services to employers to beef up that support outside of what your insurance carrier can offer, but also to all of your faculty and staff where your carrier may only offer to those that are on the plan. We can have some other solutions that'll be available to everyone. So working on some value adds that you might want to incorporate next year regarding mental health, DEI, and also support for the LGBTQ plus community. So look out for that. We'll be talking about that during strategic planning meetings as well. And wellness planning, utilizing your wellness credits. I know most of our clients have wellness credits for the upcoming year. So we'll make sure we'll be putting a plan together to utilize those funds with in-house initiatives, well-being minded gift boxes and seminars and newsletters. So look out for that. But we have a couple minutes. If anybody has any questions, feel free to unmute yourself or put it in the chat, and we'd be happy to answer anything that you want, if we have answers.
Always.
Yes, right. Or we'll make something up.
I have to say, Leah, it's great to see you. You're brave enough to be on camera. Thank you so much.
Nice to see
Hi,
you.
Karen. I see so many familiar names. I would love to see everybody's face, but I get it. Oh, Australia.
Hello.
So great to see you.
Hello.
Oh my God. I love it. I have missed all of you. Oh, there's Violetta.
Hi, Violetta.
Hi, Kelly.
Hi.
Hi, Hope. So good to see you guys.
Good to see you too. Smiling still. That's good.
Yeah. Yes, so
I
You
great.
make me smile. You make me smile.
Aw.
Oh, Kelly.
Good. Yes, thank you
Ah.
so much.
So does anybody have questions, or do we just want to say hello to everybody?
Yes, I'm looking at the.
Yep. Why don't we, Kelly, why don't we
Hi, Hope.
close out the
Hello.
presentation so the boxes will appear a little bit bolder.
Oh, yeah, that would be great.
Say that again, Matt. I'm sorry.
Why don't we stop
Full
sharing the
screen.
presentation?
Oh, yes. Gotcha.
We want to make sure that we keep to your schedule. to 9:45, so we have about a minute left. And I just want to say on behalf of Corporate Synergies, Hope can certainly also do it, but we are grateful that all of you took about an hour out of your day to spend with us. Hopefully this was helpful. We try as a company to provide information that's useful and helpful. Really grateful that you guys were here to join us with this morning. So thank you very much for hopping on. More to come in 2023, and hope to see some more of your faces there again as we roll out more of these webinars.